Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to do something a little different today to finish out the week. We're going to look at a song that somebody from a band has specifically requested. Actually, we kind of did this earlier this week with Deathless, didn't we? I guess it's not too new or too unique. Anyways, we're going to be checking out something from Cosmic Rhythms. Sid contacted me and says, I came across your channel and was glad to find out that you review music that I personally enjoy listening to. I was wondering if you might be interested in reviewing some of my tracks. I have composed 4 tracks that can be classified into the post-rock instrumental genre. Although they are all great, I believe Time is the most unique and my best. So that's what we're going to check out today, is Time from the, not necessarily a group, it's a one-man project, Cosmic Rhythms. Let's dig into this and see what's going on. Alright, so we have a light hi-hat on 1 and 3, and some very sparse guitar. Yeah, very interesting. The right pan guitar was doing dotted 8ths into 16ths and has been slowly shifting away from that pattern. I like how we've actually evolved into this triplet feel rather naturally. Maybe we were in 6/8 all along, and we were just getting the hi-hat on 1 and 4 that felt like it, but it's a very natural evolution to this new feeling. All right. So interestingly, this is actually something I've brought up before when we've checked out some post-rock stuff, is that I like the journey of the slow burn, but I tend to want shorter journeys, I suppose, more movement, something along those lines where the song doesn't feel as static. And I think this is actually something that might be a little up my alley as far as getting into some more post rock type of music. That was actually an interesting journey across 4 minutes. It feels like a very condensed post rock song, and in that sense, there's almost an element of me that wishes it were longer, which is the complete opposite of what I would typically say regarding post rock music. But it's, Sid, if you're watching, this all comes from a place of love. I want to see musicians, composers grow, and part of that is going to be criticism. Um, there's definitely a lot of stuff in here that I think works. Um, I think the overall writing, the tone, the atmosphere, for one, fits really well. I think you have a great talent at creating atmospheric works. And like I mentioned, I do enjoy the pacing of this more than I traditionally do with post rock stuff. We move through the sections rather quickly, and we're constantly almost. It's not even like a specific point where we switch ideas. I like the gradual growth between these ideas, such as moving from the first idea to the second, the sparse concept to some of the eighth note playing and 16th note playing before he really ramped up into the large section. I loved how there was that gradual shift in the right pan guitar and even the left pan guitar to a lesser extent of moving from these sparser ideas to more populated, uh, putting more notes into each beat concept. We gradually slid into that rather than be there being a stark, specific bar. Bar six was this other section, and bar seven now we're playing, faster notes. I really like that gradual growth, and I think it suits slow burns like this very well because it provides some momentum and change across time um, that I think it's just lacking, at least for my specific preferences in music. But I also think that it is there as a replacement for something that a lot of post rock tends to do, which is heavy layers. And there aren't so many layers here. We have the bass, the two guitars, and the drums. I think that's it. There might have been a third guitar in there at one time, but this type of slow burn isn't necessarily about continuously adding layers on top of ideas. It's about having a smaller group of voices gradually changing over time, and I really enjoy that. Like I said, I think you have a knack for those gradual shifts as well as the atmospheric writing. Um, Here's where some criticism is going to come in, though. This It's not so much about the writing. I think the writing is still fairly solid. I think it might need another layer, maybe another voice, even just a new guitar tone. The panning does a good job of separating the two guitars, but I think having some tonality differences is going to add a lot of depth that the song is missing. But a lot of this stuff, just like the depth I'm going to talk about, isn't so much about the writing, it's going to be about the production. Um, The mix on this is rather sparse, and I think you can get a lot more oomph out of that final large section with a better mix. Unfortunately, I'm not an engineer. I've spoken many times in the past about how even my songs are poorly mixed and tend to be just MIDI because DAWs and mixing and mastering techniques are just things that I'm not extremely well versed at. I'm more of a notes on paper kind of person. Um, so I suppose you can also take that with a grain of salt. However, I do think that the big moment comes off a little flat. And I don't think anything needs to necessarily be added to that section. I don't think it would hurt to add some other voice there as well, but I think it works fine on its own. It just really needs a stronger mix to help give it some punchiness that it's lacking. Um, I do like the ending though. And I really didn't think I was going to because we were at the high point of the song, and I was really getting into the groove, getting into the atmosphere of it. And then it's just gone. I'm like, okay, so where's this going? There's still like 25, 30 seconds left. And we bring back some of those sparse ideas from the beginning. And I think that's a very interesting choice. Because up until that point, we had heard a gradual growth of the song. We gradually increased volume, complexity, um, rhythmic ideas. We put more notes into each beat. More notes into each beat. And we had this gradual growth up to this high point, and then it was all gone like that. But I started thinking about the title of the song, Time, and I don't know what necessarily your intentions were with writing it or how you came upon this title, but to me, it feels like life. Life starts out small, and then one day it's just gone. Um, I suppose some people do kind of get sort of a trailing off at the end rather than an abrupt stop, but that's kind of the story that I see with this song. And with that perspective, I really enjoy the dynamic work in the volume and sparsity that's found at the beginning of the song. It starts out so quiet. And I've mentioned this in the past before that I'm a huge fan of volume dynamics that we just don't see too often in modern music, especially nowadays when even the quiet parts of a song are still running at the same volume level as the loud parts. It's missing some of that oomph, some of that actual quietness that it to me it at least loses the impact. And I think this absolutely nails it. I think when we started on my volume levels, we were running at like negative 40 dBs, which we ended the song at negative 10. So there's a 30 dB gap in your, not gap, but width in the song. And I think that is phenomenal. Perfectly done. Um, However, the journey to the end is interesting. And I think that's because I don't want to say this as a negative because, as I've mentioned before, every writing idea is a tool in the composer's toolbox. You can't use any of them wrong. However, I feel there is a lack of direction. There's definitely motion in the song. The song is gradually moving, getting louder, getting wider, getting bigger, getting more complex, but it doesn't really seem to be building towards anything in particular, and I think that's because it's lacking some sort of melodic line to help drive it forward. And once again, grain of salt, because I understand, having listened to some post rock over the years, that's not necessarily always the purpose of the genre. But I think having something that would help drive it forward, because the two guitars as they sit kind of just meander around a lot. And it could just be a personal preference. Maybe it's just not my type of writing, but they just seem to exist and they don't really go anywhere. and especially the right pan guitar, it has some really nice flow and movement to it. If you map it out on paper, it has, some nice, going ups. We got some coming downs. There's a nice shape to the melody of it, but it doesn't. I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't do anything, and maybe that's just a mix thing. Maybe putting some more dynamic work into it uh, is going to change that. But and again, it could tie into the themes as well. Going back to this idea of life, nobody really knows what they're doing with life, and having a song that just sort of meanders about and then ends abruptly could fit thematically. And in that sense, don't change a thing. If that's the intentions, roll with it. But I feel like there's just not any direction or focus in the guitar playing. It seems improvised at times, and I'm not sure if that's an intentional sound or if uh, it just happens to be what it sounds like. There's some lines that I think are done very well, and there's other lines that I'm not really sure what they're doing in the song, other than filling space, which again leads to that sort of feeling of directionlessness. So maybe, like I said, we can either change some of those guitar lines and give them some direction, or provide a melody, a core melody over this that sort of drives the song towards these larger parts and increases the tension. I think that's what it is right there. The two guitar parts don't increase tension the way that the atmosphere of the song is sort of implying they should be. We have a lot of the production side of the song going with these themes of growth and expansion, but the music, the way that the chord progressions go and the way that the notes are being utilized, I feel like the melodic aspect isn't lining up with the width and complexity that's increasing, that the melody is not working alongside those ideas. And then the last thing is something I both want to applaud and also bring up, is that there is a very strong human fallacy element in the playing. In the past, I've always complimented this. I love hearing little flubs or mistakes, maybe, a single drum hit or a single note coming in just, shy, just a hair late or a hair early. I love those elements in music. It's one of the things that really draws me to some of the indie rock stuff that I've been introduced to, such as the microphones. The fact that they're willing to put in an imperfect take and sell that as the definitive final version of the song that they've envisioned. It's something that we just don't get to hear too much in modern music. So I do want to applaud that these takes feel very raw in that element. However, I would suggest possibly tightening up the drumming in a few sections, as well as some of the guitar bits, especially the right. I don't know why I specifically listened to the right pan so much. I think it was the more interesting aspect. Possibly on a next listen, I would give more attention to the left and see how that kind of balances the right more. See if it can change my perspective on the song. But there are some rough places in the guitar playing and the drumming where the timing is just a little off. And like I said, I appreciate that. I really do. But there definitely hits a point where I think it happens too often. And I believe a more precise take should be utilized for it. Unless, of course, like I said, we're going along with that life element. Life is messy. Life is sometimes can be directionless, and life can end abruptly. And assuming that the concept of time is applied to the time that one perceives through their life, all of this sort of really ties into that theme. So, on an artistic level, I love a lot of these little imperfections that the song employs. And for the final time, I think take what I say with a grain of salt, especially if a lot of this is intentional. All right, so I think those are my thoughts on Cosmic Rhythm's Time. It's an interesting track and definitely one I think that skews a little closer to what I would like to hear in a post-rock song. But it does have a couple of, not issues, but points of interest that are either perfectly on point, assuming artistic vision, or could be worked on a little bit to tighten up a song into something that's more traditionally palatable. This is where you guys come in though. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this track. As usual, I will post a link to the Bandcamp and the Spotify in the description if you'd like to check out more from Cosmic Rhythms. Those links will be in there. Also, in the description box, there's a link to Linktree. As usual, it's a nice little menu with everything related to the channel, whether you'd like to check out the Discord community, support me through Patreon, email me with your own band's music if you want me to check that out. All sorts of stuff is in there and above the description box. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'll be back tomorrow. Nope. Dang. I'll be back on Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We'll be looking at Lo-Fi Week. And as usual, we'll have 2 videos a day. The second video is whatever I feel like. I am still trying to get through the special selections. But as with this, I do want to dig into some of the bands that have emailed me and provide some criticism and analysis there as well. All right. Until next time, remember, be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.